I was starting to think about the good things and the bad things that the Ben 10,000s have. In fact, this could give us an idea of who would be the best, since in personal opinion, one will always be better than the other. But the best way to see who stands out would be by analyzing the good and bad things that each one has done. Because yes, no matter how much you like a specific Ben 10,000, he has made a lot of mistakes. And no matter how bad or dumb you think a Ben 10,000 is, he has also had a lot of good achievements. So without much more to say, I'll shut up for a month and present to you the good and the bad of each of the Ben 10,000s. We'll start with the first Ben 10,000 we ever saw in all of Ben 10, who everyone will remember as a real jerk. In the future, he developed an attitude that was off-putting to everyone, causing problems with his teammates because he didn't even have any friends. Problems with his family. Remember, Grandpa Max distanced himself. Even Gwen, tired of everything that was happening, decided to call his younger self to remind him what a hero should be like.
Well, I always wanted to be a superhero, but now that I see it, I'm such a big fool.
With a bad attitude and all, but man, he really knew how to do his job. If not, just look at him here, defeating an enemy in less than 5 seconds. Ben 10,000 in battles had really good traits. He got straight to the point. He didn't have time to play around with his enemies, which I think is really great. All of this was thanks to his great knowledge of his aliens, since he always used the same ones as always. Plus, all of his aliens were in their best shape. All of this was thanks to the good physical condition of its wearer. If I have to point out a flaw in this Ben 10,000, it's his lack of humility, since he had lost his element of surprise in battle. By perfecting his moves so much, it made him predictable, and this was noticeable in the battle against Vilgas.
Nothing you do will be able to surprise me.
In terms of power, I think we are dealing with one of the best Ben 10,000s, because, as we said before, his physical condition has a big influence on how he handles his aliens. And since we're talking about aliens, this one in particular has 10,000 aliens. His most powerful alien is unknown since it wasn't shown. But based on what we saw in the episode Ben 10,000, I would bet that it's XLR8 since he used it for several years instead of his normal form. All of this is because Ben 10,000 has the master control of the Omnitrix. With it, he has managed to modify his own Omnitrix, giving it many more special functions. Yes, this Ben 10,000 added nanotechnology to his aliens. Extremely good features, but there are others who surpass him, like the Ben 10,000 from Omniverse. This Ben Tennyson had the V Omnitrix, an innovative watch created by himself thanks to his smartest and most technologically advanced aliens. He had the master control, letting him switch between aliens just by thinking, like his other version. The amazing part was that this watch was actually 2 watches. This allowed the wearer to add a fusion function to create a new alien. That's how we got to know the fusions of Ben 10,000. Some awesome aliens that combined some of the best aliens we had in the saga. Among them, we had Forearm Zorus, or Breach, and Crash Shocker. Or the most powerful alien seen in the series, which was Atomic X, a fusion of the 2 most powerful aliens in the saga, Alien X and Atomic X. With this, you would think there would be no more discussion and that this would be the best Ben Tennyson, but no. What nobody knew is that Ben 10,000's Biognitrix didn't work at 100%. The idea of fusing aliens wasn't something innovative since we had already seen it since the original series, obviously with big mistakes, like this fried fish. The combination of features from both aliens had to be unique. It had to benefit the user in order to have a much more powerful alien. But this Biognitrix never fully managed it. Did you ever wonder why Atomic X, being the strongest transformation of the strongest aliens, always lost? This Biognitrix uses the weakest alien DNA as a base to fuse. In this fusion, it's clear that more of Atomic X's DNA is used. There's a part of Alien X? Yes, obviously. But it's very little. The dominant one will always be the weak alien. In short, the Biognitrix still has flaws, so it's not a completely finished watch, and the best of all. If we wanted to see the full power of an alien fusion, this would be the perfect version. Now, this isn't a fail for Ben 10,000. Actually, it's one of the most powerful watches we've seen in the whole saga, but it's not perfect. Analyzing his battles with the most powerful alien, we see that he has always had problems. At the beginning of the latter, he was powerless against a Chronosapien bomb, erased from existence and left at the mercy of a Ben without a watch. By Era's end, Malthred humiliated him. In the battle, he was throwing surprisingly weak attacks, and that's even though he had no reason to hold back his power since they were fighting in space. I think this Ben 10,000 got overconfident after learning the secrets of the Omnitrix and creating his own Biognitrix. It led him to lower his guard and never think there would be enemies much stronger than him. His attitude is up for debate because his way of helping others was always present. In fact, with his multiversal counterparts, he was always there. He was always affectionate with his wife, and with his friends even more so. The only and biggest drawback is that he didn't give his son the attention he needed. His son Ken had to become a different person to try to get his father's attention.
After you took the Omnitrix from me, I wanted to prove to you that I was ready to be a hero.
Something that matches his personality, since as we said before, this Ben is much more confident, unlike this one, who lets his feelings as a father take over. Let's remember that when Kevin 11,000 managed to hit his son, Ben reacted so brutally that he almost tore Kevin apart. This Ben 10,000 had very strong paternal feelings. He even caught his enemy Kevin 11,000's son, and yes, we can't deny he's older now and has grown more sensitive over time. We could even call him overprotective with his son Ken.
Kenny, get to your room! You said we'd do it together! Secure the room, man!
But in terms of strength, I think we've come across the best of all. The aliens seem to be at the peak of their power. This Ben 10,000 already knows every trick because he's lived through it all. I really like that in battles. He's learned not to play around with his enemies anymore. He doesn't hesitate. When he has a small chance to throw them into the null void, he does it. All of this is thanks to the new technology and null void grenades that he has. The most powerful alien that was shown was the brutal Way Big. The strength, speed, and rage with which he hit Kevin 11 was honestly really scary. But not as much as the best alien that a Ben 10,000 could possess. Ben 10,000 possessed by the power of a Celestial. We have to admit that this was the only Ben 10,000 using the power of a Celestial, and I'm talking about using it in its purest form, not in a fusion. This is the Ben 10,000 with the most powerful alien seen in Ben 10. In the reboot finale, we saw him destroying universes in Ben Tennyson, against one of the most skilled Bens, from a parallel universe in Omniverse. He defeated him easily and without hesitation. The same happened with an alternate reboot version. We must remember that he was responsible for the destruction of several Ben Tennysons in the multiverse.
Another dimensional Ben was attacked today. He lost another Omnitrix to Alien X.
His Omnitrix seems to be the full version like the other Ben Tennysons, except for Omniverse, but with a very big difference. This one doesn't seem to have the master control in his possession, since when he was captured, he didn't transform into any other species to escape, which seems logical, since he unlocked the celestial alien through force, almost breaking the Omnitrix. He stayed in that state for so long because of Veli, Bellicus, and Serena. If you want to learn more about Ben 10,000 and its secrets, I'll leave it here for you. Here I explain much better why this Ben 10,000 lost against his other younger versions. When it comes to attitude, he has one of the worst. After losing his family, he was filled with hatred and resentment, which led him to destroy all the Ben Tennysons, as I mentioned before. This Ben 10,000 is very similar to the Ultimate Alien version. But this one, we know that this Ben 10,000 is known as Ion, but he is still a Ben 10,000. He had the same idea as the Ben 10,000 from the reboot, although he was a bit more pacifist. Instead of destroying them, he wanted to collect them. This Ion had an Omnitrix that was destroyed, and we couldn't see any of those aliens, although this one seems to be one of them, and I say seems because I haven't analyzed it properly. As for the movie and the timeline of this Ion, but if you have a theory, please put it in the comment box. If we find the right answer, I'll upload it as a short, since I'll start uploading Ben 10,000 shorts as I'm announcing things. Don't forget to follow me on my Instagram. I have Instagram. And remember to join the Facebook page, which has reopened. In this same episode, Ben 10,000 returns. We got to see the real Ben 10,000, who has the Omnitrix that I loved the most in my life, the Ultimatrix. This Ion kept the evolved versions, which for me are still the best in all of Ben 10. So much so that here we met the best ultimate version of all existence. Ultimate.
Ben, not until I discovered my best transformation. Ultimate Ben!
The most perfect transformation. It had all the aliens from Ben 10,000, including their ultimate forms, with the Master Control on his side. Obviously, he could do whatever he wanted, since he adapted the power of the aliens to his normal form. On certain occasions, he also adapted their size, as we saw with an ultimate Humungosaur. Unfortunately, this made him lose his spark that he had in the alien transformations. The cool thing about Ben 10,000 was seeing the aliens in their natural form, using their natural powers, or in some cases fused together, or the goal was to see monsters, and this way, it didn't help him in combat. Unfortunately, it stays very much on standby. This Ben 10,000 toys with his enemies and lets things play out instead of finishing them right away. In the Ben 10,000 multiverse, there are several Ben Tennysons, of which only one has turned out good. Although, how could we define if the actions of a Ben Tennyson have been good or bad? Ben 23,000 is a rich kid in a privileged world. Ben Matt is a supernatural survivor kid. In a post-apocalyptic world, the decisions they've made have a reason, and today I'll show them to you, the good and the bad, the dimensional Bens.
Comenzaré.
With Ben 23,000, one of the most well-known dimensional Ben Tennysons, one of the most beloved is this Ben Tennyson. It was a privileged world, and out of a total, a Ben Tennyson 000.
He plays better than that.
The richest and most famous boy in the world.
The core of the planet.
Ben 23 was the greatest and most famous hero on Earth, which only made him arrogant and egocentric. This Ben Tennyson only cared about media attention. The values of being a hero had been forgotten by Ben 23. In fact, the robberies that took place in the city, which were a hero's job, he didn't take care of them. In this universe, Universe 23 Ben Tennyson no longer has Grandpa Max, so we find a version who cares more about fame and money. And even though Grandpa Max is a very important factor in how the Ben Tennysons develop, we have to mention that Ben 23 has at least had a bit of luck. I don't have a grandpa like you.
There are more people out there who can help.
You're not alone. Regarding the Omnitrix, he has the Hero's Watch, which gives him a big advantage over the Omnitrix since it started with 10 while his started with 23. As far as we know, he doesn't have a Master Control and his transformations have a time limit. Now, all his aliens have a peculiar characteristic. His transformations usually take on a light blue color. Although this doesn't affect the aliens, it gives them a different tone. Speaking of aliens, he claims to have 90, and I say claims because we actually haven't seen them all. What we have seen is his enthusiasm and creativity in battle. Ben 23 is one of the smartest, since he takes advantage of his surroundings in battles. In the fight against Tetrax from Dimension 23, he managed to distract him just to climb up a building, where he was waiting for him with a trap and determined to deliver the final blow. In the battle against Azimuth, we saw him use Electric Yeti, which I forgot to mention to you. This Ben Tennyson gives his aliens different names. Electric Yeti maximizes the alien's abilities by blending in with the environment. This makes him quite agile and unpredictable. When it comes to finishing off his enemies, he doesn't hesitate. In fact, he takes advantage of every inch he has to deliver an effective blow against them. This is a very important point, since most Ben Tennysons tend to play with their enemies.
You can say that again. My dearest mentor let the bad guys get away.
His methods, although precise, are sometimes not the best in battle.
And so I turned into Vomiton and ate it? With Azimuth inside?
What? I spit it out. Whatever.
His most powerful alien isn't entirely his, since it's a kind of fusion. In Ben 10 Universe, in the episode, Is Ben's World Crazy? Ben had to do something very risky, and that was to ask to transform into a galvanic mechamorph with which he could upgrade his transformation. In the end, it worked, and it gave us this awesome alien that's really powerful. Even though he had the ability to easily defeat his usual enemies, he didn't have the capacity or the experience to face the bigger ones. Thank you. The one who had a big alien, and I'm talking about a really big one, was Matt Ben. This Ben Tennyson had one of the most powerful aliens we've seen in Ben 10. Way Big is the most powerful alien that Matt Ben has. In this dimension, its destructive power seems to increase. The urge to destroy, the lack of restraint makes him a very dangerous alien. The only problem with all this is that without intelligence and reasoning, being so strong isn't very useful. In the episode Is Ben's World Crazy?, Matt Ben had the situation under control. Neither Rat nor Frankenstrike from Dimension 23 could stand up to this alien. In a one-on-one battle, their days were numbered. How you use your aliens defines you and determines the outcome of a battle. While Matt Ben was thinking about power, Ben simply thought of a strategy. It's pretty hard to believe that such a small alien like Nanomech could defeat Way Big, but that's what happened. You have to learn how to use your powers and aliens. That's something this Ben didn't know. The only alien we saw who has wonderful control is Diamond Head. In a battle against two Ben Tennysons, he was able to show his full potential. He defeated them without even trying. They were fighting against Yui Judy, Rich, and Cannonball, but I have to give credit to this Diamond Head. Pathetic. The Omnitrix in this dimension is called the Power Watch. It gives a really cool design to its aliens. It's simply aesthetic, but it makes them look super tough. Something that really matches Matt Ben's personality. His attitude is the worst of all the dimensional Bens, and that's not up for debate. With a despotic and dictatorial attitude, he took over his dimension. He turned all his people into his slaves. Who would have thought that power could cloud the mind of a Ben Tennyson so much, bringing him to this point? But without Grandpa Max and having Maltran and Vilgax as his mentors, it was to be expected. We had already mentioned it before. Most dimensional Bens not having a Grandpa Max end up turning into these terrible versions. Although that's not really the case with Ben Zero. This is a totally different version. He lost everything after being infected by a virus. This has turned him into a sort of zombified being. Nagabin suffers from several psychological disorders. That's why he has a careless attitude. All of this is because he lost everything. The evil Ben is the Ben Tennyson most similar to the one we know, with a slight difference. This one chose the path of evil. For these three cases, it's hard to pick a good or bad side, as each had their own reasons for their choices. In fact, if Ben 23 hadn't met Ben 10, he would have been part of this team. Tell me in the comments, which side would you put each Ben Tennyson on based on their reasons? When it comes to the Omnitrix, I just have to highlight one, Benzaro's watch. Because of the way it is, it makes these aliens take on a zombified form. A form that unfortunately wasn't seen, since he used aliens that were actually monsters. They were zombified forms, but their forms would look like these. When it comes to their best aliens, we didn't get to see the potential of the best ones, since we only saw a few aliens. From Benzaro, we had Frankenstrike. From Negabin, we had Woodross. And from Evil Ben, I can highlight the use of Gravitack, and of the three users, Evil Ben was the one who controlled his alien the best. Since he was able to stand up to Ben 10,000's alien and Ben 23's alien. Something that was to be expected, since this is the most capable evil Ben Tennyson of them all. Or maybe not. Remember, you get to choose the best one in the comments.